That's got to go over the left. The banner needs to go low. Yeah, the other way. Cut the Pentagon budget!
Where do you want it? Stay here. Stop moving. How are we? I want one of these signs next to the back. Right here. We're almost done.
Aquí va.
This side. Still see the White House. Okay. Okay, got it.
What's up, Brian?
When you want the right shirt, either get in or get out. Just don't stand on the edge.
You've been saying that for years, right?
Yeah.
Get in or get out.
You've seen William Robinson's piece about Nicaragua, right?
I'm not sure I have.
Well, he's arguing, that the funding is the funding to destabilize the government is very exaggerated. Basically, it's a critique of, what we're saying. Right. But it's important to take into account what he's and do a critique of his critique. That's what I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please.
If you will. Yeah, he did a piece on one of the. That's a great initiative. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, it's following up with Bernie's new Green New Deal. At least he put it in. Unlike I did.
Right, yeah, that's it.
Tal cosa.
Yeah, one's got
Silver plated, buddy.
Okay, that's a good shot. Get them cutting the cake.
I want to get a good photo. Good. Yes, of course.
Okay, we done here? Yeah, I think we got it.
Yay! We win!
We win.
Pentagon just announced it's cutting its budget by 50% just because of it.
Michelle me dijo que ella me iba a ayudar para alguna cuestión, alguna cosa, y Ben Robinson también. Yo estar en Nicaragua y voy a estar con Ben Robinson unos días para perder una casa y después para mi familia.
Y mañana viene.
Sí.
Sorry.
Hey, how are you? ¿Y Anya no ha llegado más?
La verdad, se me olvidó decirle,
No,
pero
no,
ojalá
no.
que lo
Mark me llamó, like, he told me that he wasn't coming.
That he was. fue la de ayer, ¿tú sí?
Oh my goodness. No había visto The Real por 1000 años.
De 2 años casi.
¿A dónde estaba?
En Nueva York, sí, en Nueva York. Upstate.
Pensé que no estaba.
Hello, 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 everybody. So good to see you all. Woo! What a beautiful day for cutting the Pentagon budget. Every day is a beautiful day for cutting the Pentagon budget. And here we're going to start off with cutting the Pentagon. I think each square represents about maybe $80 billion. So when you have your little bite to eat, you will be eating a couple of $1 billion. So while you eat a bite, think of all the things that you would want to do with those billions of dollars, and that will give us inspiration to keep going and to keep working so that we can actually cut the Pentagon budget, right? Now,
Just so you know, for the is right there.
For
Does that
the.
matter?
no. So I think, Kelly, why don't you come up because you're 1DC, and this is really about one of the examples of the things that we could do with the Pentagon budget, which is to put it into helping people with housing, affordable housing, issues around homelessness. So maybe you could cut the cake for us.
No te pongas arriba de las cosas. ¿Te quieres sentar en tu silla? Aquí.
We're going to spin the Pentagon, and then we're going to levitate it.
Somebody hold
They
this.
tried it.
So this is the first one.
Okay, this is for that. So you can cut it maybe like that.
Start with Austin's office.
And do you want to say anything as you cut the cake?
I mean, what an honor to be the first person to cut the budget.
Cutting the Pentagon. Literally.
Beautiful!
Yeah, cut the Pentagon budget!
Yay! Now we can put it on.
No, you gotta cut it.
Yeah. All right, so we'll cut it in each one. Yeah. And then even in half again.
And we can throw it in the Potomac River, right?
That'll kill all the fish.
Hey everyone, as we cut the cake, I'm Olivia with CODEPINK. I'll be the DC-based organizer here. Really great to see some. Yes, I'll be focusing on the Cut the Pentagon based here in DC. But the Cut the Pentagon, we really want to focus too on what we want it to fund instead. So the people, planet, peace, and the future. Before we go ahead and get started, I do want to acknowledge the land that we're on. This is stolen, occupied, Piscataway, Anacostan, and Nechochan land. And also the building behind us was built by slaves. So the things that we're up against, white supremacy, colonialism, imperialism, patriarchy, are all fueled by militarism. And instead, we are, and while they're all fueled by militarism, our Black, Brown, Indigenous, LGBTQ+, disabled, undocumented, and stateless friends will suffer the brunt even more, both here and abroad. Militarism, we want to cut this budget, and in doing so, build a coalition with many of the organizations that are represented here, which you can also see them over there. And some of those people are going to be represented here today. Our coalition is building. We want to be an umbrella, a tent, more so than militarism is a tent. Our communities are, oh, thank you so much. A lot of this work happens at the grassroots level, so that's why we're especially excited to be working in partnership and amplifying the groups here in DC to support your actions creatively through direct actions, teach-ins, also through the mutual aid initiatives that a lot of you are doing already. So we're not here to recreate the wheel, but instead amplify and build power together and do so. So you're going to hear a little bit today, and I'm going to introduce the first speaker. Oh, actually, before I do that, I am going to introduce my co-conspirator, co-MC, Sean of the Answer Coalition.
All right, how y'all feeling? Got money for war but can't feed the poor, we're fired up, won't take it no more. Got money for war but can't feed the poor, we're fired up,
Can't take it no more.
got money for war but can't feed the poor, we're fired up.
Can't take it no more.
Got money for war but can't feed the poor, we're fired up.
Can't take it no more.
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 So nice to be with you all this afternoon. My name is Sean Blackman. I'm here with the Answer Coalition, which means Act Now to Stop War and End Racism. And it's so important that we're here today, in this time, with this message, to cut the Pentagon. An obscene, a disgusting, a grossly bloated budget that goes to cause death, destruction, bloodshed, suffering, and hunger all over this earth. Meanwhile, you and I go without right here in the United States. Now, just 2 days from today, on September 14th, we'll make 20 years of the Answer Coalition. That's right, yeah, give it up. That's a long time to be in struggle. And for those of y'all who are in it with us, you know it ain't always been no easy task. And it's not a coincidence that the Answer Coalition came together on September 14th. That was 3 days after the attacks on September 11th, 2001. And this was a movement that was comprised of aspects of the anti-globalization movement. Some of y'all remember the anti-globalization movement. And so after that devastating attack on September 11th, where nearly 3,000 people died in the aftermath, then President George W. Bush, that's right, George W. Bush opportunistically used the grief, the rage, the anger, the frustration that people in this country felt seeing that attack, and used it to manufacture consent for what became a campaign of never-ending war all across the globe. And that opportunism of George Bush, playing upon people's vulnerability in that time, made it difficult even in the movement. There were even some aspects of the peace movement that was critical of Answer for organizing that soon after the attacks. And yet, 25,000 people came to Washington, D.C. to be a part of those anti-war and anti-imperialist demonstrations. And what that shows is that the American people, who are still in shock from the depth of this inhumanity, still had the clarity to say we are sick of wars being carried out in our name, but without our consent. This is what has guided the steps of the Answer Coalition and the anti-war movement in the time since. We've been running for a mighty long time, and we're not tired yet. And so why is it that we need to cut the Pentagon? Why is it that we need to take a slice out of the war machine? Well, let's talk about Washington, D.C. Did you all know that in this city, there are at least 10,000 empty housing units?
Dang.
Meanwhile, under this pandemic, you all have been around D.C., you see the homeless encampments growing, and you see new ones popping up where there weren't any before. There shouldn't even be a homelessness issue in the city of Washington.
That's right.
There shouldn't be a homelessness issue in the United States.
That's right.
Because there's more empty housing in this country than there are homeless people. And so, why aren't these folks housed? Why doesn't every human being have unrestricted access to food, clothes, shelter, health care, quality education, gainful employment, and all those other things? Because you can't make a buck if everybody has all the things they need. You can't turn a profit if everybody got a place to live and some food to eat and some health care. Even under this pandemic, you and I didn't get the support we needed. Yeah, they gave us a couple of trifling little so-called stimulus checks. Didn't stimulate nothing. All it did was keep disaster at bay for just a little while longer. And now what has happened? The Supreme Court, an unelected body of the rich, has said that they are A-OK with putting 11 million people out on the street during a global pandemic. And did you all read their decision? What they said was very revealing. They said, well, we can't just let people stay housed during the pandemic. We can't just cancel the rent. Because if we cancel the rent, then people may expect the government to feed everybody. If we house everybody, folks might expect the government to take care of people when they're sick. Imagine that. God forbid that the government that holds itself up as the paragon of democracy and human rights and all these other high-sounding things, God forbid that country actually take care of its people. Matter of fact, they said that extension of that eviction ban was a breathtaking overreach of power. Imagine that. Keeping 11 million people, mostly children, housed during the pandemic. The idea of that literally took their breath away. This is what they're saying. This is the depth of inhumanity of the folks that call themselves our leadership. And it's no surprise that these folks aren't down with canceling the rent and keeping people housed, because they're down with these corporate developers. And so for them to advocate for the cancellation of the rent and housing homeless people, that means they can't line their pockets. So we should be clear that those folks, the interests of the folks in the Pentagon, the interests of the folks in Congress and in the White House, their interests run contrary to ours. And so what does that mean? That means we have no help coming from them. It means you and I have to organize.
Got it.
$46.5 billion set aside for emergency rental assistance under this pandemic. 89% of it has not gone out. How disgusting is this? And so we see very clearly we're in a situation where profits are being put over people. Wall Street been doing good under this pandemic. The billionaires got richer. We got a whole new class of wealthy people now, pandemic profiteering. And speaking of pandemic, when we talk about the Pentagon, when we talk about war, we're not just talking about guns and bombs. We're not just talking about boots on the ground. We're not just talking about sanctions. But But we should also talk about the hoarding of vaccines that's happening not only in the United States, but North America. Canada has enough vaccines right now to vaccinate its population 5 times over. Meanwhile, the developing world in Latin America, on the African continent, in Asia, are struggling in many places to even have one vaccine. And I mentioned sanctions. You want to talk about the military machine? This brutal war machine that is already causing incredible suffering in these countries that the U.S. government deems as its enemy. It was already causing suffering with its sanctions in Iran, in Cuba, in Venezuela, all over this earth. And not even a global pandemic was enough to prick the conscience of this government to alleviate those sanctions, despite calls for just that from the international community. And you want to know why their conscience wasn't pricked? Because they ain't got no conscience. You and I have to be the conscience for this country.
That's right. Yep.
And that is why we're here today. That is why we're saying cut the Pentagon. And that's why we're here. We're going to have our program today. We're going to have some speakers. We're going to continue to fight. We're going to stand together. We're going to have some cake and ice cream because the struggle is sweet. And this is how we keep our spirits up as this government and this system tries so much to crush our humanity. So y'all ready to keep up the fight? We're fired up, won't take it no more. We're fired up,
Won't take it no more.
we're fired up,
Won't take it no more.
we're fired up.
Won't take it no more.
And we continue to cut into the cake. We just get some for this time of year. There's plenty of cake to go around when it's Michigan with Pentagon. The next person we have speaking with us represents that restored energy, the young people. Rev is a 15-year-old climate activist. I am proud to call them my friends. We were up on the front lines together at Line 3 fighting the pipeline, the over-militarized state of the indigenous people in northern Minnesota, or so-called Minnesota. Rev is also an organizer with Extinction Rebellion, one of our partners who knows how to do some creative direct actions as well, and has written several of her middle and junior high papers around what we could do instead of the militarism budget. So they are beyond their years. Here you go, Rev.
I'm Rev. I'm 15 years old, and I'm happy to have my first call. So I've been really concerned about money being spent on the military for a while. Congresswoman Bartley asked, why are Americans paying $32 million every hour for war since 9/11? The astronomical amount of money being spent on the U.S. military is so sad for so many reasons. The U.S. military is one of the biggest contributors to the climate crisis in the world. Not only are its drones and jets and nuclear weapons directly destroying the lives of people in other countries, they're also using an enormous amount of fossil fuels and producing a massive amount of carbon emissions. The climate crisis is happening now and already hurting so many people, and it's going to get a lot worse if institutions like the military keep up their polluting. But it doesn't have to continue like this. The U.S. should be spending the money being spent on the military instead on renewable energy, housing, healthy food, and making those things affordable and available for everyone. With all the money being spent on the military, we could be building enough renewable energy infrastructure for everyone in the U.S.
right.
Some people say the military provides a lot of jobs and boosts the economy, but instead, by putting the money for the military in the Green New Deal, we can provide more jobs that are healthier and better paying. We have to rise up and fight this problem.
I see you too.
Because every year,
I didn't recognize you at first because of your hair.
while people in our country and around the world are hungry, homeless, and suffering from the climate crisis. We can help millions of people have a better life with stable housing and enough food to eat. We can be using energy from the sun instead of the energy that's destroying the earth. We don't need to be spending so much money on the military. We should be spending money for the betterment of all people.
All right, give them another round of applause. Money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education,
Not for war and occupation.
money for jobs and education.
Not for war and occupation.
Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and occupation.
That's right. We're here today, CODEPINK, the Answer Coalition, and our co-sponsors, standing today after the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attack, saying we need to cut the Pentagon, refund the people.
Here, we just uncovered people.
There we go.
For the people.
And we know that this never-ending war machine is a global project. So we don't even have to leave this hemisphere to see the ravages of the U.S. war machine. We see how the U.S. is attacking countries like Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, Bolivia,
Everybody's fighting on it.
and then they get on television and tell us that these are our enemies. So let me ask you a question. Is Daniel Ortega the reason we don't have universal health care in this country? No! Is Nicolas Maduro the reason why the police kill black people in the streets of this country?
No.
No. This government, as Martin Luther King called it in his time, is the main purveyor of violence on the world today. And speaking on Dr. King, when we talk about a peace movement, you know what Dr. King said about peace? He said there's a false peace that's the absence of tension, but a true peace that's the presence of justice. And so this is what we're struggling for here today. And so I hope you'll join me in welcoming our next speaker to talk some more about the impacts of the U.S. war machine in this hemisphere. Join me in welcoming Patricio Zamorano of the Council on Hemispheric Affairs. Give him a hand as he comes.
I'm not gonna sing now then.
Como quiera.
In this lovely Salvador Allende shirt. That's another 9/11.
I wasn't prepared for this.
Oh yeah.
Hey.
Oh, all right. Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and occupation.
Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and occupation.
Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and occupation.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, while we're waiting on Patricio to set up, we're going to bring up another speaker, one of our dynamic young organizers here in Washington, D.C., someone who has been holding it down ever since last summer during the rebellion against racism, following the racist police killing of George Floyd. And that has continued here in D.C. with the police killing of Antoine Gilmore, George Watson, and so many others. I want you all to join me in welcoming Afeni from Freedom Fighters, D.C. Give Afeni a hand.
Hello, y'all. Hi, my name is Fanny. I'm really excited to be out here and share space with all of you. I'm an anti-war veteran. I'm a core organizer with Freedom Fighters DC, a grassroots abolitionist org out here doing mutual aid and direct aid in the community. I'm also a contributor on Fred Hampton Leftist, so please check us out. But yeah, not gonna lie, didn't get to write my little notes down, so excuse me.
Take your time.
You know, where do we start? Like, we are literally standing in the middle of a pandemic and we're still arguing about what we should and should not be investing in. We're still asking, demanding health care when that should not be something that we have to organize around. But yet here we are. They don't have to organize when they want to bomb Iran and when they want to bomb Somalia. They don't have to do a mass action. They just decide to do that with our tax dollars.
That's right.
Like, that's our money that goes into destroying other countries, that goes into disrupting governments that honestly just treat their fucking citizens better than we treat ours. Like, that's what our money is being invested in right now, a global violence. So if you are somebody that is out here trying to figure out what you can do to organize, the best thing you can do is invest in mutual aid and invest in your communities. Building trust within your community, building that relationship with the people that are right next to you. Because I can promise you, the motherfuckers that are in this fucking White House, all those fucking pigs that are on the street, and the fucking Pentagon and the Department of so-called Defense, when the only thing they fucking defend is the rich and powerful, those motherfuckers are not gonna fight for you. So we have to fight for ourselves. They spent $300 million per day for 20 years in Afghanistan, and that is not including all the money that we give to Israel every single year. That was not including all the money that we spent in covert operations in other places through the CIA. That's not including all the fucking money that we spend on our 800 military bases all across the world. That's not including none of that shit. $300 million per day to murder innocent children, to murder women, and then turn around and say that we should go back for women's rights? Are y'all fucking serious?
I think she should.
If we gave a fuck about women's rights, if we gave a fuck about human rights, we would have left them alone in the 80s, before we started training up the Mujahideen. We would have left them alone then. But here we are, yet again, America making a mess, and then trying to, for some reason, be the solution to that mess, only to profit and to benefit for these motherfucking corporations and for these military contractors that don't give a shit about us enough to not fucking pollute the earth. I don't know, or to not fucking, train our police officers to act the same fucking way in our streets. The same exact way that we are policing the world, the same exact way that police officers are policing us here. We have to stop the global violence. We have to divest from global violence. We will no longer participate in shit that does not benefit us. They have been benefiting themselves for so long now. So it is time that we start to organize, that we stand up for each other and say, fuck no, that we are not going to do this shit anymore. If they can spend $300 million per day in Afghanistan, they can invest $20 billion to house everybody. Just a one-time investment. They can invest in a universal anti-racist healthcare system so black women like myself don't die on delivery tables. They can invest in that. They have the money for that. So because we know they have the money for that, we're going to demand that they fucking give us our money back and invest it back into our community. I just want to finish up with this. Thank you all so much for being out here, but this shit does not stop here. Shit's gonna get a lot fucking uglier before it gets cute. So be prepared, be ready, and understand that the way that we are ready for that shit, the way that we get ready for the revolution, is by investing in mutual aid, by building those infrastructures outside of the government, by holding these motherfuckers accountable, and not in 2 years, not in 4 years, but if you don't vote the way we want you to vote today, your ass is going to get removed from Congress next week and we're going to run a special election in your district, because fuck you. That's the type of organization we need to be on, and we can be there. So, like I said, thank you guys guys so much for being here, and yeah.
Before we have our music, I think Benny's talked about something important, that this is a coalition. We want organizations like theirs, Freedom Fighters DC, that is out on the streets, that's doing mutual aid, taking care of their neighbors, as well as speaking truth to power in the ways that she is. So please, if you're interested in your organization or you want to be part of an organization, reach out. Again, my name's Olivia, but we're going to have some time and space at McPherson Park to have a little bit of a brainstorm to how we build this collective power together. And now Patricia is going to go and do some music. Joy in the revolution.
Thank you so much. My name is Patricio Zamorano, long name. I'm very happy that we are inviting the Latino brothers and sisters to be part of this common effort. I'm the director of the Council on Democratic Affairs, COHA, COHA.org. I invite you to write with us, to read us. And we are here also to support this effort from CODEPINK and so many coalitions because, well, I have here, everybody knows this person, right? This is Salvador Allende, who actually died yesterday, 40 or 50 years ago, I don't remember now, 1973, September 11, 1973. That's the first September 11 that this planet had to suffer. It's a crazy coincidence. It's the same September 11 that made this country suffer. Well, Chile suffered before that because of these guys, because of the Pentagon. The Pentagon spent a lot of money in trying to overthrow Salvador Allende's government. More than 3,000 people, Chilean people, were killed directly by the military dictatorship that was financed by the Pentagon. More than 100,000 people were tortured. More than 800,000 people were exiled. Those are real victims. We're talking about real costs of humanitarian issues because of the Pentagon. The Pentagon also is responsible through the Southern Command of the suffering of so many people, threats to Nicaragua, to Venezuela, to Cuba. Those are governments who enjoy the support of their people. It doesn't matter what the mainstream media says here, they are there because their people want them to be there, period. So do not believe the lies. Do not believe the lies against the Nicaraguan government. The Nicaraguan people support the Nicaraguan government. Nicaragua has the lowest crime rate in Central America, the best social indexes, poverty, quality of life. Nicaragua is a poor country but full of dignity. That's why the government is still there, not because of other reasons, not because of the lies that the mainstream media is trying to portray. Do not believe the lies. So the same situation with Venezuela, with Cuba. Cuba has been fighting the Pentagon and the U.S. government for 60 years, and they're still there, and they're going to be there for a long time because they are supported by the Latin American people. So I'm also a singer-songwriter, so they asked me to sing something. So I'm going to sing a little song I composed specifically for all the victims of September 11, the Chilean September 11, also the U.S. September 11. So I'm gonna sing this. Thank you, man.
Las estrellas no hubieron de unidad entre las aguas y el viento, murmuraron entre el trigo y la vid y sacudieron voz que recordó el silencio cuando nació en tu pecho, se marchitó sin saberlo cuando pidió el canto. ¡Viva Víctor Jara! No se me olvida el temblor de tus manos, ni a la tierra maldecir, y tus ojos removiendo sin miedo de nuestra sangre el dolor. Canta mi hermano, brilla tu voz entre las sombras del corazón. Canta mi hermano, no sufras más, que la justicia no tardará. No me entristece el temblor de los años cuando resuena un fusil y se me cansa la paz y los sueños y me retumba el rumor. ¿Dónde se fue la pureza de bienhechor del camino? Donde la llama del pueblo grita fuerza y valor. ¡Viva Salvador Allende!
¡Viva!
Campesino de la tierra obstinada, ven a cantarle al amor. Se arrepiente el verdugo y la metralla que te nubla el corazón. Canta mi hermano la libertad, vibran las notas de la verdad. Anda mi hermano, hombre y razón, el que lo quiso no te mató. No te mató, no te mató, no te mató. No, y no se me olvida la luna que te lloró en la etapa final, que te lloró en el juicio final. No, y no se me olvida el dolor que te buscó en la etapa final, que te lloró sin saber. Será tu tiempo, será tu tiempo, será tu tiempo. Si tuviera un martillo, cantaría en la mañana. Thank you so much, and I also want to invite you to another important event tomorrow at 5 p.m. in front of Congress of the Capitol, 5 p.m. Against intervention in Nicaragua. 5 p.m. tomorrow morning. Thank you so much, guys.
Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and occupation.
Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and occupation.
Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and occupation.
Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and occupation.
Got money for war but can't feed the poor. We're fired up.
Take it no more.
Got money for war but can't feed the poor. We're fired up.
Won't take it no more.
Got money for war but can't feed the poor. We're fired up.
Won't take it no more.
Got money for war but can't feed the poor. We're fired up.
We're taking no more.
We're fired up.
Can't take it 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 no more.
All right, we are going to introduce our next speaker, but one thing I want to say is that CutThePentagon.org, if you go to it, we have an action calendar there. So all of our coalition members, actions that they're already doing, we're wanting to uplift and amplify. Like we know, organizers, activists are doing the work. So the action that was just said tomorrow at 5 p.m. outside the Capitol, also tomorrow at 6:30 outside of Kavanaugh's house to demand abortion and reproductive rights for all, will be up there as well. So as we continue to expand our coalition, we will put that on the calendar event. So please sign up, take the pledge, CutThePentagon.org. Now I'm so happy to introduce to you all Echo of Korean the Peace Network and Grassroots DC.
Thank you, Coach Pink, for having me. Thank you for this space and thank you for giving me the opportunity to take part in cutting the Pentagon today. So my name is Echo. I live in Fairfax, Virginia. I've lived in this area for over 30 years. So the global the rally that took place 20 years ago, I was here. The anti-war movement, I was here. Glad that I'm near DC, that I was able to participate, so that we are calling for peace and not war and occupation. I am a coordinator for Korea Peace Now Grassroots Network. So many people still don't know that Korean War is actually the longest war the U.S. has been in. We've been in the war for 71 years. since 1950, even before my mom was born, way before I was born. Now, if we ended the Korean War, how much money would we save? A lot of money, right? A lot of Pentagon budget will be cut. Most of the South Korean people don't feel the threat of war. They don't feel that there's going to be a war breaking out anytime soon. Now, North Koreans, they do feel the threat of war because they are in a war with the U.S. Unless U.S. signs the end of the war treaty and peace treaty, North Korea and the U.S. are still technically in the war. South Korea was not at the armistice table to sign the armistice, so they have no say, unfortunately. So U.S. needs to end the war with Korea. When Medea was inviting me to this event, she asked me I could speak about if we didn't have the Pentagon budget, what would be useful for? I have 2 children. My older one, when she was a baby, I had to pay at least $1,200 to $1,600 a month for daycare. I couldn't afford to have a second child because I'm paying almost all my salary paying for the daycare. In South Korea, you might be paying maybe $300 per month, and this is a country with way lower GDP than the United States. So that is one thing that I would like to see, that we get health care, we get the child care more affordable so that people can freely have babies and be able to raise their kids. I do have a chant that I would like to participate for you to join. If you want to visit my organization, it's koreapeacenow.org. So please visit our organization. My email is up there if you want to get connected and come and join the Korea Peace Now action. So when I say Korea Peace when, you say Korea Peace Now. Okay? Korea Peace when?
Korea Peace now.
Korea Peace when?
Korea Peace now.
Korea Peace when?
Korea Peace now.
Thank you.
Let me say, cut the Pentagon. Cut the Pentagon.
Cut the Pentagon.
Cut the Pentagon.
Cut the Pentagon.
Cut the Pentagon.
Cut the Pentagon.
Cut the Pentagon.
Cut the Pentagon.
Cut the Pentagon.
Cut the Pentagon.
Let me hear you say, U.S. out of everywhere.
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 That's right, my friends. As we bring our program to a close, I just want us all to remember that this is not the end of something. This is just a moment to reflect and understand that in the same way that the U.S. war machine marches forward, so must we. Because it is only through the pressure from the organized masses that we'll be able to cut the Pentagon and to stop the ravages of the military-industrial complex all over this earth. We see it even now. We see it in this hemisphere. We see it in Africa. We see it in Guinea, Ethiopia, Asia, the Middle East. There is not a square inch of this earth that has not felt the wrath of Washington in some form or fashion. And for many of them, their only crime was refusing to kowtow to the White House, refusing to bow to the whims of the millionaires in Congress. And so make no mistake, this struggle against war is a struggle for humanity.
Right.
So how y'all feeling? Y'all ready to march? Y'all ready to get some ice cream?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I believe my co-host Olivia is going to give some logistics and is going to break that down for us.
Yes. So So we keep enticing you with food. Food and fun, that's what we want this to be about. It's hard work, but it's fun work as well. And someone who has inspired that is one of the co-founders of CODEPINK. While we are doing a lot of things in DC, actions every day, we also are going to be doing them all across the country, and she's going to talk a little bit about that.
Thanks, Olivia, and thanks everyone for being here. This is an awesome kickoff, but it's a kickoff. It's about actions every day. So you can check the website, Cut the Pentagon, to find out what you can engage in a day. And what Sean said, view us out of everything. That includes women's vaginas. And so tomorrow we're at Kavanaugh's house. So if you need details, they're always at Cut the Pentagon. And use hashtag Cut the Pentagon on everything. Because everything we need needs us to cut the Pentagon. So let's get that hashtag trending every day. We need members of Congress to stand up and be bold and say, I will no longer vote for war. We're not asking them to vote a little bit and vote for this little thing. No. It's no. No more war. We have to cut the Pentagon. And it's not, let's not listen to words anymore. Let's watch actions. Let's hold people accountable. Enough of the bullshit. It is really time. And we all know the cost. We've heard amazing speakers today. We know what the costs are. So now we're going to walk over to McPherson Square. We're going to do some more feeding. We're going to have some Ben & Jerry's ice cream. But I really want to bring up Ariel. Can you bring up our partners? Because this is a big tent. We are raising up all the people that are, we are raising up all of our partners that have already joined, and there's more than this. But this shows it's a big tent. It is about people, planet, peace, and the future. So it's everything that we need. We need to cut the Pentagon. It takes all of us. And we've got to make it so that the people are more powerful than the profit. So it means talking to your friends, getting people involved, and staying engaged. We're at the beginning of something. Let's build something big and beautiful. And now let's start.
We'll bring the cake with us. You're going to have cake and ice cream.
Are you done, Jody?
Show them we understand what we're doing.
Yeah, here's about everything.
And we can use anybody's help for every little thing.
Yeah, so we're going
It's right here, very close.
Can we sing happy birthday then?
No.
I want to sing happy birthday Stevie Wonder style. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. We'll come by and have a drink with you. We'll bring flowers to the flower shop. What is your favorite flower? If you crush all the flowers, you can't start spring from coming.